Hello guys, welcome to the fifth video of this CSS tutorial series. In this video, we'll be talking about border color and border radius. Note that these are CSS properties. Alright, let's just get right into the course. And then this is what we have from our previous video 4 course. Alright, so we are going to be creating a file for that. We're going to call it border.html. Enter. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to cancel out from this server because it runs that previous file. So we're going to go live on this new file here, which is border.html. All right, since we get that on the way, I'm just going to say shift exclamation mark, then enter. We get the code, the HTML structure on our screen. So I'm just going to write, let's say div, let's say a p element of say border of my elements. All right, one thing I want us to understand here is that CSS don't only have the HTML element or HTML tag itself as a selector, it has other selectors. Now let me show you, let me just write them out here. Types of CSS selectors. One, have HTML tag, which is can be h1, h2, e.g. h1 etc. h1 comma p etc. So number two, we have HTML elements IDs, and then three, HTML elements class. What do I mean? We can style our HTML elements by using these three selectors. What we are used to for now is the HTML tag itself, which we are selecting p element. What about if I have a lot of p elements on my page? Let's call this on 1 and call this on 2 and call this on 3 and call this on 4 and call this on 5. We cannot differentiate any of them. If we want to style it, for instance, let's say style, and then we say p element, and then we say color to be red. You can see that the style applies to all of them. Why? Because they are all bearing the same name. But what if I want to style this number 2? How do I differentiate this number 2 from the rest? That is when we need to use the HTML ID or the HTML class to style. So how do we do that? We'll give this one an ID. We just say ID equal to, then double quote open, double quote close, and in between the double quote we can give it any name of our choice. We can say element 2. Then this number 3, we can also give it a class. So to write a class, we just say class. We say class, we can say element 3, just like that. So you can give any of your elements a class attribute or an ID attribute. They can have both. This can also have an ID attribute if you want to give it. You can say so this is how we can differentiate the same element from each other by using their ID, give them a unique ID or a unique class to separate each of them. So how do we use them in our CSS selector? If we want to use them, for instance, let's say I want to style these two, how do I use it? Is to say hash is for ID. So I can say hash, then EL2, curly bracket to put curly bracket close. I can say color to be green, and if you look on the board, the color is green. So hash denotes an ID. So what about a class? Class dot denotes a class. So let's say we want to style this number 3. We can say, because it is a class, we can say dot EL3, curly bracket close and open. Then we can say color of, say, uh, blue, or say blue. So you see the color is blue. So please get familiar with this. We use it, you can use class as a selector, we can use an ID as a selector, or we can use the HTML tag itself as a CSS selectors. All these things are valid. All these things are things web front-end web developers use to differentiate each element and then style them properly. All right, so we go into what we have for today, which is the border. So how do we do that? For instance, let's just say border element. So we get this out of the way. So to style a border, like I told you from the beginning, I said that every HTML element is a box. So to style, we just say border, just border, and then we can give it, this border takes in 3 properties. Number 1, uh, it takes in the thickness of the border. We can say the thickness of the border, can say, for instance, 4 pixel, which is how thick the border should be. Then would the border be solid or dotted? So we say 4 pixels solid, it can be red or blue. So it takes in 3 properties: the thickness, and how it want to be formatted, then the color of the border. That is what it takes. So we can reduce the border to, say, 1, and then you can see that it takes in, the border is lighter and solid, and so on. We can have, it has different types. Let's say let's use this thing by class. Let's say P1, and instead of just saying P, we can say dot and then change it to 1. So it styles only the first one. So here we can give it a class of, say, P2, so that we can style and have P2. So in P2, we can say P2 like this, because dot denote that it is a class selector. You can say border 3 pixel. Instead of solid, you can say dotted green. So we have these dots around the border, and then we can still go further to do other ones. Change on to 3, and then we can change here to 3 as well. So I say dot p3, and I say border uh 9 pixels. Now instead of solid, we can say dashed. uh it can be dash red. So you see, these are the different way to style your border. You can make it solid, or you can make it dotted, or you can make it dashed. Just know that border has 3 parameters that it takes in. Number 1, the thickness of the border, and then how the format, how you want the border to be formatted, and thirdly, the color. You can, this is, we are using name color here. You can use exact color here. You can also use RGB color here. Each time you see color, you can use any of those values, either the RGB value or the exact value or the naming value for colors. So the next thing we want to talk about is the radius. You can see how boxy these elements are on a browser. We can make it kind of having a kind of having a rounded edge. How do we do that? We can say, for instance, we can say border radius. can say border radius, and it only takes in one value. It can be 5 pixels, and then we can see how curvy this thing is, or we can make it 50 pixels. You see it becomes more rounded at the top. So that is border radius for you. But now if you look at this border, we are styling this border, we are just saying border and everything is style. Border has more than this. We have border top, we have border bottom, and we have border right and border left. So if we, for instance, we want to style this, sorry, this is going to take a little bit of time. Let's say 4, want to style 4, we can decide to style just the top of this border by saying dot p4 and say, instead of just border, we can say border dash top, and then we can say 2 pixels solid red. That means this text is going to, you can see that it only gets applied to the top of the border. The same thing with the radius. We can style just the top left of the radius or the top right of the radius. But let me finish with the border top, and then at this is top, and then we are going to change the left, sorry, right. Let's start with right because it is anti-clockwise. It can take any form if you want to style, but you can take any form. It can be left, it can be right, anyone you choose to. It is not clockwise or anti-clockwise. All right, so here we can say dot p5 and then we can say border. What are we styling? We are styling the right, so we say border hyphen right. So we say hyphen right, we can say 5 pixel solid green. So if you see on the bar, this is the right side of that we are styling. So we can also style the just the bottom and just the left, just specifying here that border but apply the style rule to the right, border but apply the style rule to the top. So we can also have here to the left, and then we change here to 6. So using the class stuff, you can say p5 p5 p5, and then so we can say border hyphen left. So you can say 4 pixels solid green. So you can see sorry, I'm using p5 so it styles the both the right and the left because we have it to be p5, it's supposed to be p6. So you can see, so this, look at it, is now applied to the pixels. All right, so you can do the bottom as your own classwork to get that done. So let's go back to the border radius. Border radius, you can, if you see from this part, we just said border radius, and then everything became rounded in this border element 3. But let's say we want this border element 1 to have the radius just at this part, which is the top right corner in border radius 1. How do we do that? We just say border hyphen top right radius. So we can set it to be, let's say, 89 pixel. So if you look at this one, only the top right is rounded. What about this? If we want the top left to be rounded for element 2, we can say, let's just duplicate this, shift alt down to duplicate, then alt to move it around. So instead of top right, we change it to, sorry, it will still be top, but we change the right to left, to left. So you see, only the left, top left is 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 applied. So guess, if we want to do for, let's just create an empty one over here and just call it, let's call it 9. Let's call it 9, and then uh so let's say at this 9 we want the bottom left to be rounded only. So you say dot p9, and then we say border, let's give it a border rounded, a border of 4 pixels, solid red or solid navy. So we have the 9 will be solid navy, and then we want to make this bottom left to be rounded. How do we do that? We just say border, border radius, border bottom, bottom hyphen left, hyphen left radius. Then we give it, you can say 6 pixels, and then you see that only the left, the bottom left is rounded. So I guess you can do for the bottom right. So to navigate to this part, you say bottom right, this part is bottom left, this part is top left, while this part is top right. That is how to make your box curvy or rounded. So this is pretty much all about border radius and border colors. I see you in the next class. Thank you.